I am pleased to greet you, America, from another wonderful place. If you haven't been here, I'm more than happy to recommend it to your attention. I am pleased to greet you from the proud community in Talbot County on the eastern shore of Chesapeake Bay. This is Easton, Maryland.
One of the things about Easton that anyone who knows anything about the community appreciates is how vibrant the cultural life is in this town.
It is such a great placement for young people to learn so much about themselves through music. That is why I think it becomes more and more essential for people to have a place to be able to perform and learn the arts.
It's vital for the downtown to have this structure here.
In 21, they decided to build this beautiful theater, and it's going to become the showplace of the Eastern Shore. I mean, it had everything in it, and there was nothing like it on the Eastern Shore. And they completed it in 22. It was called the New Theater then.
Well, I guess I probably started coming in 1925 or so. My grandmother came 3 times a week. The balcony looks pretty much the same, but there was a canopy out front, and I think the box office was out front for a while. Then they brought it inside.
Back in 21, it was the General Amusement Company. It was a vaudeville house and silent movies. I mean, in its heyday, it was the best around.
Because they were silent movies, we came every Friday night to see the serials with Buck Jones and
Tom Mix.
And Tom Mix.
All night.
There was a big parlor up there and a ballroom.
Correct.
On the second floor.
And an orchestra gallery.
My first dancing lesson up there.
And then in 34 is when the Shine Theater came in. And that's where Will Howard's father started managing. And so that's where Will Howard came into the picture.
My father was appointed to be the manager of the Avalon Theater in 1938. He was in Plattsburgh, New York. He was with the Shine Theater chain. The Shine had just taken over the theater, and my father drove all the way down to Easton, Maryland. He'd been told by his supervisor, who was pulling his leg, that Easton was a town of 50,000 people. This is 1938. And he tells the story of coming down Route 50, seeing a sign that said Easton 5 miles, driving for quite some time and stopping his car and turning around and looking back the other way, and a sign said Easton 5 miles the other way.
It got older. It was starting to slow down.
The VHS cassette player killed a lot of small town movie theaters.
That's what happened.
And it happened in Easton as well. But in the mid-1980s, the theater closed. The last movie to play here was Cocoon.
And then in 89, they decided to redo the theater because it was falling apart. And all the stories about, the birds flying around and the holes.
Its nickname at the time was the Avalanche.
Is that right?
It was.
I didn't know
that. It was really falling apart. As a matter of fact, one of my friends commented, it's the only movie theater that he's ever known that has rain delays. When it would rain right inside the theater.
Ooh.
So when it closed, it got worse, and there were pigeons in here, and it was terrible. And as it turned out, the back wall of the theater, the south wall, was about to cave in.
But I mean, there's a lot of yeses that took place during that whole time to get, to where we are today.
I hated to see it torn down. I didn't want to do it, and I called Dick and said, is there a possibility that I could move my restaurant into some portion of that building? He got very excited. He called his engineer, Walter Chamu, from Baltimore, and they quickly hand-sketched out tables and chairs in the theater. And I said, that can't work. But if there's a way that the town could take the theater and restore it through nonprofits by raising money, and that I would take the outside or the smaller sections and turn them into a restaurant. So the mayor realized that they had to have green rooms and places for people to change and get ready and then go up to the stage, and there was no room. So he said, we've got to dig down. and create a basement under the theater. Now, Hank Duncan, who's one of my partners in this, he said, guess what they dug up in the Avalon Theater? He said, the Tread Avon River. I immediately rushed over, and they had dug into a spring, and water kept pouring in. So if the theater didn't get completed, I couldn't survive as much money as I was spending on the building.
Join the excitement in the heart of historic downtown Easton, the Trio at Avalon, uniquely offering delicious fare for all taste buds from 3 establishments all under one roof.
It was Mark Walsh who really started saying, oh, John, you should take over the theater. You know, you have business experience, and you have this and you have that, and you should do it. The Avalon had the chains on the front door, because at that time the town of Easton had, they took possession of the theater. And the next thing I know, he's decided to do it. Then I became the person that was opening up the theater. And I became the person that's like, what experience do you have to run a theater? And I had to say, I'm an educator. And being an educator, I'm a facilitator. I love the arts, and I love the community. And so at that point, I kind of said to myself, okay, I'm going to pour my heart and soul and energy into this place and do the best I can. And I didn't even know what I was supposed to be doing, so I had to learn what I was doing. And I had to experiment, and I had to file it in the back of my head to figure out, how I could do it better next time. That kind of started the Avalon family of everybody kind of seeing the potential of this theater.
It was for a very long time a place that felt like it existed a little bit through like duct tape and magic and a prayer.
When you look at the Avalon Foundation mission, part of it is about building a stronger community, and part of it is about being a good steward to this historic property.
The Avalon Foundation has been on a long road to building ownership since the sort of mid-90s, when it was divided into a commercial condominium.
The Avalon Foundation actually only owned what is now the Stoltz Listening Room. We didn't actually have enough share of the building to get a vote in the condominium association. So while the Avalon Foundation had the biggest stake in the future of the building, we really had no power or voice.
If the roof was leaking and it was over X amount of dollars, we had to go get approval and go through the process to get it fixed.
Jess, tell me about December 2nd, 2014. You go and you pick up the mail, and you open a letter. Tell me what it read, tell me how you felt.
I just sat there and I opened it, and there was the letter from the town of Easton giving us 30 days notice. And it was just one of those moments where, the room got quiet in my own head, and my heart just dropped into my stomach. I just thought, oh my God, it could all come apart.
And without the theater, there's no Avalon Foundation. The work that we do does not exist without this theater.
The theater is now owned solely by the Avalon Foundation, which is very exciting. But the work isn't done, and the story doesn't end there. There is over $1 million worth of repairs that now sits on your shoulders to fix.
With all construction, there are setbacks and successes, and we certainly felt that on an ongoing basis.
I don't think what we did here was small in any way. I mean, it is certainly the biggest accomplishment that I have been a part of for the Avalon. I don't know what could be bigger in my career, to be very honest with you.
I just look around at that proscenium and the stage and I think of how many times, all the events, and I'm so proud. When we were celebrating the 100th birthday, and I saw you guys kind of high-fiving, or it's the Avalon family that's grown. If you took that yes out, and I said, it's not my job, we wouldn't be here. And that's an amazing thing to think about.